Today is a year in review, 2019. One of the things we look at is what went well. When you're evaluating what went well, what went wrong, and what must change. If you're really honest with yourself, some things went well, some things did not go maybe the way you thought they would go, and there's some things you've got to change this year. This year in 2020, some changes has to happen in 2020. So we're going to review those things today and look at that. So first, let's look at your report card. Here we go. This is somebody's report card. It may not be your exact report card, but we're going to look at this and we're going to evaluate just a typical report card. In areas of your core curriculum, this is the things that you know you should do and should be doing. For finances, some people got a D in finances, which means that you did not handle your finances as responsibly as you should have this year. You spent maybe more than you made, or your credit may have been all messed up this year, whatever, but your finances should require a little bit more attention in 2020. So give yourself a D. If that's you, then accept your D. Socially, most people do well socially. We tend to have our circle of friends. We tend to be the ones that's not going to stay at home. And though some of us may be a little bit more homebodies than others, we tend to do better socially. So that's acceptable. Work, average across the board. Most people are about a C+ at work. It may not be you, but some people around you, look right and left, somebody around you is a C+. That means you're doing just enough to not get that notice. Just enough so that if anything happens, it may bypass you. Health is an area where you've let yourself go. A D+. Most people are not aware of their health condition until a symptom comes. Their symptom is a measure of health. As long as they feel okay, they believe that everything is good. But we know that's not really true health. Health is not a feeling. Health is when all systems, all your things work the way they should. So most people can do better in the area of health. Do you agree with that? Do you think most people could do better? We could eat better. We could, exercise more. We could push away from the table a little bit more. We could start there. And with church, now this is I graded on the curve here. I gave a B-. But we know the national average, most people don't go to church, so that you really should be about a D, but I kind of did the curve, maybe a B-. So this is you. Your overall grade would be a C. An overall grade is a C. This is the progress that we look at. And this is probably acceptable for some of us. Most people can live with a C in life. That's okay. That's acceptable. They're getting by. They know they can do better. But I'll do better at some point. I've got to get back to doing this. I've got to start doing this. I should. So when you know that's you and you're not really pushing as hard as you should, let's move forward. Let's raise it up in 2020. Let's make this our best year yet, right? Let's make 2020 our best year yet. Best year yet. I want to talk about a core curriculum. The core curriculum is a set of exercises or courses that provide the knowledge, skills, and experience you need to succeed in college and in life. Let's keep that up there for a moment. Your core curriculum. These are the things that you must know. Skills, the knowledge, the experiences in order to be successful. Anyone who's successful has attained a certain level of knowledge, skills, and experience. When you put that all together, that's the measure of success. But the ones that don't succeed, it'll go back to one of these areas where they're lacking the skill set or the knowledge or experience. If you apply for a job, if you want employment, the first thing you're going to ask for, do you have any skill in this area? Have you worked in this area before? And how much experience have you had? To a great degree, that determines your level of success. But the ones who do not try and acquire skill sets or acquire more knowledge or more experience, you're going to struggle. We struggle when we try not to or just assume that we're going to stay where we are. Nothing stays the same. Things are going to get better or they gradually are getting worse. You can get in the best shape of your life and say, wow, I finally made it here. But if you don't continue, what happens? From that very moment that you stop, you start regressing. So it's continuing a process of growing and learning. Let's look at the scripture in Psalm, and the first scripture in Proverbs chapter number 1 and verse number 5. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. So a wise man, wise person will do two things. They will hear and they'll increase learning. That means it's not what you have heard. I know. Maybe you know somebody like that who know it all. You're trying to tell them something. Yeah, I know. But a wise person will hear. That means continuing to hear and will increase on what they know. That's wisdom. Don't assume that you know it all, right? We don't. I'm always reminded of how little I know. I used to know it all when I was about 18, 19. I don't know if you were there. You knew it all when you were there? Yeah, I didn't. Then you get a little older, you find out that maybe there's some things you can still learn. But a wise person will be determined by those two things, what you will hear, continuing to hear and increasing in your understanding. And in understanding, a man of understanding, a person of understanding will attain wise counsel. That means you're going to seek out people who know what you don't know. You're going to seek the counsel of people who has something they can offer you. Not just your friends, your wise friends who are struggling just as much as you, like the blind leading the blind. You need to talk with people that have been there, have been down that road, and they can now give you wise counsel. That's how you become wise. You hang out with wise people. Let's go to this core curriculum. We go to core curriculum. This is just a basic core curriculum. Those who went to college before, if you've gone to college or even in high school, you've seen something like this, the components of a core curriculum. Now, when you attend college, you have a certain number of semester credit hours you must accomplish for each semester or for the year. So I just gave you this is a basic one right now. So let's look at communications. So if you're taking whatever study you want to take, you may have communications, 6 credit hours, semester credit hours you have to take of that. Mathematics, 3, life and physical science, and it goes down to the total at the bottom. The total semester credit hours are 42 semester credit hours. Okay, that's what you got to do, right? Let's say if that's what you need to accomplish to go to your next year, you need 42. When you look at communication, now there is a lot of courses or classes that you can take to complete that requirement. So if you need 6 credit hours of communications, you find out what you need to learn. What classes can you take that applies toward this so that you're increasing in learning and in knowledge. Mathematics, life sciences, you find out what you don't know. All I'm saying, you're finding out what you don't know. This is how you advance to the next level. The next year, if you want to advance, you have to learn. You have to understand. This is life. This is life. Life is the classroom. And if you don't know what you don't know, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. There are things in your curriculum right now that you should be learning and growing and increasing in knowledge so that you can go to the next level of wherever you are. You need to learn. If it's in your relationship, there are things you need to learn to advance in that area. If you're not learning and increasing in knowledge in some way, you're going to stay at that level. But the idea is you learn what you do not know. That's how you advance. When we were growing up, there were people that used to get set back. I don't know, they don't do that anymore. Do they still set people back? I don't know if they set people back a year. Not enough. You get set back when I grew up. Not enough. We got set back. There'll be people who's trying to graduate 20, 21 years old trying to graduate. Yeah, people coming back to teach, because some people come back to teach, and they're saying, hey, you're teaching too. Man, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm not trying to teach. I'm trying to finish here. 21 years old. Got set back. There are people that were 2 years ahead of me, and then they were 1 year. They were in the same class, and they graduated behind me because they got set back. Why did they get set back? Why do you think people do not complete when they start something? Whether it's a class, what? They've got to learn. What are reasons? Give me some more feedback. Why do people not complete? Because some people start college and don't finish. They get married, they don't make it through the first year. They don't complete the work. They had a great job, but something happens, they don't continue and advance. Commitment, what else? Poor attendance. Ambition, follow through.
Never was taught to study.
That's good. Never was taught to study. Mm-hmm.
Illness.
Yes, that can be good. Mm-hmm. Laziness. I like that.
Lack of money.
Money. Big one. Big one. Big one.
A teacher that could teach us.
Lack of support. Having a teacher what was that? Having a baby. Somebody a teacher. Somebody mentioned something about a teacher over there.
A teacher that could addictions.
Addiction. Exactly. The benefits of completing. Let me go there quickly to benefits. When you complete what you started, first thing, there's success. In order to succeed, you have to complete whatever you're doing. That's your first measure of success, is just completing what you started. Some people, the difference between sometimes winners and losers is the winners just finished. That's the measure, but they just kept going. They're not smarter, they just kept showing up. Just sometimes you win by just not giving in, not giving up. So success is one of the first ways that you measure that. The next is achievement. You achieve something. We're measuring our progress sometimes by how much we achieve in life. People that feel like they're losers, they just not achieve enough achievements where they can feel that they're successful, that they're a winner. There's nothing they have to show. So they don't feel like they're accomplishing things because there's nothing to show for it. There's no achievements. So we measure oftentimes our success, our value by achievements. The next thing you accomplish when you succeed or when you finish what you started, a future. What you're doing now is establishing steps for the future. You're not doing it for now. See, when you look at what's happening, it's difficult right now, but you're doing it so that it'll be better for you, for your family, for some other reason, but you're staying the course because you know that there's a future in your present. You don't stay in your present, there's a future in your present. So whatever you're enduring in the present, it's not about your present, it's about your future. Amen. So you're staying in this, you're going to stay with this, you're going to fight because you're fighting for your future. It's not about what's happening now. You don't like what's happening now, but you'll look back later and you're glad that you endured the hardship, the pain, the struggle, because now your future is proving that you were right. But what you're doing at the present time, sometimes it's not pleasant. It's painful. To go through, to what you're going through, there's got to be another way, and you give up sometime in the middle of victory. We give up the fight, we give up the struggle. When you were winning this. It was working, but it just didn't feel good. You're not getting the validation. Nobody's patting you on the back. You just didn't. I just thought you just stay with it. You've all had people and friends that you try to talk to them, they want to quit. You say, no, just stick it out, just stay with it. You've tried to give them that counsel, but they didn't listen to you. And they're struggling. Did you know the cost of education is going up? I know if you look at the cost, I don't know what it costs now, but apparently it's really, really more expensive than it's ever been. But let me tell you something that's more expensive is ignorance. Ignorance costs way more than education. Whatever your education costs, you pay that once. If your education costs you $100,000, it's a one-time cost. Ignorance costs you every day of your life for the rest of your life. You're paying the cost for what you did not know, and you don't understand it. The fear, the frustration we have is the cost for not learning, for not growing, for not knowing. We pay that cost every day. Other things you gain from completing it, you gain knowledge, you gain experience, and a degree. At the end, you've got something that shows what you've accomplished. This is your credit. This shows the world that you've accomplished this. If you've done well, you graduate what? Magna cum laude, right? What's magna? Is it summa cum laude? I know. And some of us, thank you, Lordy. Thank you, Lordy. What happens if you don't go through this, if you don't finish? What happens if you just didn't finish this semester? What if you quit halfway through it? You end up repeating it, right? You repeat it. See, life doesn't just give you a pass because you decide to withdraw. Because you decide that you don't want to deal with something. You don't want to, you just don't want to continue in this direction. Life does not end there. You're continuing to have to repeat it. Unless you overcome it, it's the only way you're going to conquer it. You confront something, that's how you're going to overcome it. The ones that I talked about kept getting set back in high school, getting set back. It was when they decided that they were going to apply themselves and not accept excuses, and decided they made it through. And when they finally did get through, they looked back and realized how much time they wasted and where they could have been if they had really just applied themselves when they should have.
Praise God.
When they should have. I'm going to share a scripture in Acts chapter 7. It's in Moses. Moses learned in the wisdom. Moses was given wisdom by God, and his wisdom allowed him to accomplish wonderful works and wonderful deeds. When God gives us the ability to do something, we all have this gift that God has given us. Every one of us has this gift. When we focus on what God has given us and allow that to be our priority, God makes a way. God navigates through all of the issues, all of the problems, all of the distress. God makes a way out of no way. When we are struggling and we're considering what we can do and what we don't have, think about this. God has a plan. Amen. And God doesn't share his plan with us. That's where we struggle. We want to know God's plan. And God gives it to us by faith. That means we continue to walk, not knowing. And the struggle is not knowing, because we like to know. But when you trust God, you're okay with not knowing, because we walk every day by what? Not by what? Not by sight. Walk by faith, not by sight. We talked about the reasons why we don't complete it: lack of commitment, discipline, distraction, procrastination, lack of commitment, lack of vision. Now here's the reasons why what people give. Finances. Don't have the money. Didn't have the money. That's why we do that. I just didn't have the money to do it. Or I didn't have the time. Or I didn't know what to do. Right? All of those are excuses. Right? Finances, time, knowledge. The ones on the left, if you applied yourself and you had the discipline, you avoided distractions, you were not procrastinating, you committed yourself, and you had the vision to make it through, it eliminates what's on the right. It eliminates what's on the right. But if you either find a way or you find an excuse, right? We find a way or we find an excuse. When I was in chiropractic college, and it's a very difficult curriculum, very difficult. There was a guy that was going through, he inspired me because he had 5 children. And he was going through this class, to school, with 5 children. Then he moved them all out to California to go to school. He got a job while he got there. So we would go to school all day. School started around 8 in the morning, 8 a.m., and ended around 3:30 p.m. All day classes. He would go to work at 4 and work from 4 to 12. And he would get off, sleep a few hours, and he'd get up early, study to prepare for school the next day. And he did that throughout the whole time. His wife worked, but had 5 children. I had no children out there. And I'm whining. I'm like, how do you find the time? I'm asking, how do you do this? And you remember that Nike slogan, just do it? Just do it. You find a way or you find an excuse because you say, I couldn't do that because I had a family. Well, I didn't have the money. I didn't have this. If you had the discipline, the commitment, the desire, if you were motivated, avoiding the distractions, it's amazing what you can accomplish, right? So if you look back at this year, if you review this year, how distracted were you this year? Were you committed to things? Were you focused this year? Because that's how we achieve it. At some point, you got to focus. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. There got to be some things in life that requires you at some point to say, I've got to do this. And if you don't have those things that force you to commit, you can lose that discipline of knowing what it takes to have to do something. And if we don't have to do something, really have to, sometimes we just don't accomplish very much. Because a lot of things, in order to get there, it requires that amount of intensity where I got to finish this. Anybody here got projects that you started this year and never finished? Guys, got that honey-do list, some things that you intend on getting back to? Remember those resolutions from the beginning of 2019? We're just going to carry them over to 2020. This is going to be a much better year this year. I'll get them done this year, right? But it requires more commitment, more discipline, more focus. And lastly, let's look at your core curriculum. Your core curriculum. This is what is it you need to accomplish. Here's how I set things up. Your actual curriculum may vary. Communication is the number one reason why people fail. Communication. Marriages fail. Number one reason they fail, communication. Number one. Not money, not all of the stuff you talk about. Now, these are symptoms of probably communication. A lot of things that we talk about, a lot of things that we feel, a lot of things that we're confronted with can be resolved if we communicate it better. Do you agree with that? Yes. If you agree with that, if you agree with that, we could communicate better. Every time you talk about people that are struggling, you can go back and say, did you talk to anybody about it? Did you ask questions? Did you try to find out? Did anyone share with you? Did you read the fine print? Oftentimes we get on the bus and we just happen to be on the bus. And then later we find out, where's this bus going?
Where's it going?
You didn't ask? You didn't ask? You just got on because it seemed like you thought, it felt like someone said whatever, and you get into a situation where without communicating clearly intentions, we get into places where we should not be. We didn't ask. We have not. Why? Because we ask not. The Bible says that. We have not because we ask not. Sometimes the difference between the have and have nots is simply you asking. You didn't ask. You didn't ask. You assumed, you felt like, you thought, you were hoping that, and it just didn't turn out that way. But we simply did not communicate that. So oftentimes we fail from a lack of communication. That's number one. So what are we going to do this year? We should learn how to be better and more effective communicators. That means you should be forced to have to talk. Forcing you to talk. We have an agenda. Kim and I talk about certain things. I'm just going to share real briefly our agenda. And we have these meetings. We are doing this every week. And we started being less frequent. But here's our agenda. First we talk about communication. How was the communication this week? What did I say or not say? How did I speak to you in words were not kind? Let's talk about that. Was I unkind, uncaring, insensitive? Not communicating, not giving you the full knowledge of something I was going to do and you found out some other way? I didn't inform you. But communication is number one. So we talk about that. How do we communicate? Well, you woke up in the morning and you kind of snapping at me. Me? Snapping? Are you sure about that? But that's important. So what do? When we don't communicate, we just let it gloss over. We just say, well, we'll just don't say anything about it. It just goes under the rug. And when do we talk about it? When we say we got to talk. When we say we got to talk, that means all of this has got to come out now. You thinking it's got about one thing, no, we got to talk. And then you just roll out this Rolodex. Okay, let's start here. January 1st of 2019. You want to avoid those as much as possible. That we've got to talk. Be proactive rather than being reactive. Become better communicators. If we and when we sit down and we talk, that means we're trying to become current. We're becoming current because we don't want to talk about 6-month-old issues. If it's current, that means we've talked about it. You have the obligation and the commitment to talk about it, to make it current, even if it's small things. Because you're usually not struggling with big things, you're struggling with small things that have become those molehills that become mountains over time. Because you did not resolve them when they were small. It's like scratching a wound. If you continue to scratch it, you continue, and before you know it becomes infectious, and soon it requires medical attention. Now it's an issue. Let's resolve things when they're small. So we talk about those things. We talk about communication. We talk about money, because money issues. This is just communication. I'm talking about how we become effective at communication, because you say, Pastor, communicate, but what do you communicate about? Well, you talk about that. First, how well are you communicating? Then you talk about money. Money an issue. Is it, okay, what's due this week? What do we need to fix? What do we need money for? What's going out? What's coming in? How much do we have? Resolve those. How much do you need? You need to do this. Okay, get that. We talk about sex. Important, especially when you're married. We talk about that. Resolve it. Some people never do. They never talk about that. And even now, I'm reluctant to even say the word in church. In church. Can't say that in church, Pastor. You shouldn't talk about that in church. You shouldn't talk about that at home. You shouldn't talk about that ever. We never talk about that in our house. We're talking about unrealistic expectations. Yeah, we're getting there. Unrealistic. Kim's giving me my cues here. She knows. We talk about unrealistic expectations. These are things that you expect someone to be doing, but you never communicated. Those are things that your mother did or your dad did, so I expect you to do this. Or every person, every man should be doing, every woman you should know these things. I expect these things to happen. Even though it's not realistic to expect that you should live up to all of these things that's in my head. We have this expectation for everybody else. And you have to live up to all of my expectations and fantasies. That means things that you can't do. You need to learn how to do so that you can live up to my expectations. So you have to learn how to do backflips. Whatever's in your mind, you have an expectation. Believe me, we all have expectations. We expect people to be and act a certain way. You shouldn't be saying that. You should do this. We should do that. We should do this. And if you don't discuss those, then you live with those unrealistic expectations not being met. And when you're not having your expectations met, you become disappointed because your expectations are not being met. I expected 5 days and I'm only getting 2 days of whatever. So, last one, we'll talk about communication. It's outside influences. Outside influences are things that's outside of just the two of you if you're in a relationship. Anything that's outside of the two of you need to be discussed. Not that you need permission. You just want to have the disclosure. If you're going to do something, just, hey, I'm going to do this next week. This is coming up. You're just sharing. Some of the biggest issues happen with the influences that surround a person. You got married, and there were people in someone's life that were okay but now that you're married or now that you're in a relationship, sometimes those influences can pull you in a different direction. Your influence should be you and that person and then God. There's a person who got married, and he had dogs. And the girlfriend knew that he had the dogs, but their honeymoon dogs jumped in bed with him. She's like, what is that? She said, oh yeah, the dog sleeps in bed. She said, well, I didn't know that. She said, I hope it's okay. So what's the problem? What's wrong? She said, well, what about the smell? He said, they'll get used to you. Because the dogs were here first. They were here first before I met you. This was before you, but now those influences can sometimes pull you away and distract. Your hobbies, your habits. You like to golf 3 days a week, and now you have things that pull in your way. So I'm just saying, if you're not communicating, you can have a better year if you learn those outside influences, whatever is affecting you and allowing you not to be fully focused for your relationship. All right. I hope that was helpful. Life skills. Life skills. The next area you need to learn is life skills. Some of us are struggling: parenting, marriage, family, and finance. Those are serious life skill issues that everyone tends to struggle with over time. Some of us are still dealing with parental issues, even though you're very mature. As long as your parents are around, you're dealing with parental influences and things like that affects your life. And you need to learn how to be a better parent for your children. You need to be a better, as you grow up, learn to be a better sibling to your siblings. Learning about marriage, how to have a better relationship. We're not there yet. We should always learn more about family. And we're going to do this at our church. We're going to be starting next month of February, we're going to start having classes in these areas. We're going to start having finance and talking about marriage and talking about parenting. We're going to have these in here, workshops, health workshops. Wayne, he can't wait to have a health workshop, get everybody working out. Yeah, we're going to do that. We got some things in mind, because people are struggling with these areas. Parental areas and finance and family and marriage. Arts and entertainment, most of the time we don't struggle with that, but we should all learn how to become more involved with arts. I don't know, there's a part of our brain that develops as we appreciate more and engage more. Not just going and hearing, but engage more. That means playing an instrument. How many people play an instrument? Have you ever played an instrument? Raise your hand. Ever played? I'm telling you, when you were playing, there was something that was developing as you're playing, as you're learning. There's an appreciation. Part of us appreciates art. We have artists in here. Some of you are artists, and you never know how great your talent could have been. You probably could have been one of the greatest musicians, greatest athletes. You appreciate sports, but there's nothing like participating. So get out there and start playing basketball, start swimming, golfing, play tennis. Start doing things. Get that back, that arts and entertainment. Philosophy and culture. I've learned so much when I start to assimilate other cultures and learn from other people. When you start to become sensitive to other people and other cultures and start learning that our way is not necessarily the right way, because we believe somehow that we're right. We go to another country and say, why are they driving on the wrong side of the road? What's wrong with these people? And why are they celebrating the 4th of July? And all this stuff, because we're right. When we get around other cultures, we find out that there's no right or wrong, there's just different. Just different. We tend to put that label on right and wrong, but if we would start getting away the labels and say, we're just different. Everyone is forgiven. Everyone has gone through those areas where we all need that attention. Areas of health, your diet, exercise, nutrition, we're going to develop that. We need to work on that. I'm going to be making sure, starting next month, I'm looking forward to some classes I'm going to be teaching from here and sharing from here next month. And we're going to be beginning with health in our 3rd and 4th week of January, talking about health and nutrition. I've got some slides, I've got some film I want to show you, because I've done some changes to my own health that I'm excited about, and I'll share that with you next month. And in theology, learning, we should be growing in our relationship with Jesus Christ. As a church, we should be growing. We should not stay the same. Nothing in us should ever stay the same. We constantly should be growing and developing. As an organism, who we are, every 7 years we're completely renewed. I didn't know if you knew that. Every 7 years your body completely regenerates itself. You become a new person. We're meant to share the knowledge The way you become wiser is someone shares with you something that you didn't know. As we become older, we should become wiser, that we can impart knowledge and wisdom. The greatest libraries are the ones that we don't tend to listen to. It's not the books, not the library downtown or wherever your library is. It's those that have grown and attained that knowledge. The difference between a wise person and a fool is not a lack of mentation. It's a lack of character. Wise person that grows in character. It's not education that makes a person wise. There's a lot of educated fools. There's some people who don't have the formal education, but they have wisdom that they can impart to you. How many have listened to their grandmother, grandparents, or listened to somebody elderly, and they will lay something on you, and you're like, man, where's that come from? You can't read that in a book. It's the wisdom that comes from God. Amen. My God supplies. When you gain the knowledge, you share the knowledge. You're just sharing what God has given you. You hear me saying always, we're just beggars telling other beggars where they can find the bread. The way we've been fed is the same way we feed somebody else. Down south, we make the best bread down south when we grow up. Oh, this best bread. But I find out that the Bible says that man cannot live by bread alone. As good as the bread may be, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. As you grow, gain wisdom, gain understanding, learn more. Let's make 2020 the best year yet. Father, we thank you for your blessing of